Aloha and welcome to Farm Life Nation, a place for conversations about the problems we face and the solutions that exist today.
I would love for you to share a little bit about your observation of conscious versus unconscious consumerism.
Oh, conscious versus unconscious. I feel we're really very blessed to be on this farm and to be able to disconnect from the crazy city. I think a lot of people that live in the city just don't know what it feels like. And I think that's a big element of conscious consumerism and unconscious. And also being healthy. A lot of people aren't healthy. A lot of people are stressed, and it's just the norm. How many Uber drivers did we talk to along our journey that were just sick and tired, and that was the norm. That's
And
what they
broke.
knew, and broke. And
Sick, tired, broke, a part of a system that they just don't know how to get out of. And I think that's why we started this show, was because we were also those people at one point in our lives. I grew up in Arizona, you grew up in Southern California. We both ended up here on Kauai and had a very similar dream, which is why we locked arms and became partners and had this idea of, is self-sustainability possible? Is it possible to be as consciously in your consumption as possible and actually make great change? And there's a lot of talk right now about climate change and around fire weather and some of these things that you and I have just been kind of sitting back looking at, wondering the connection between the two, of like, the people who are talking about this are actually the people who are creating it and trying to create a narrative that makes people think that it's gasoline or it's eating beef that is creating these huge catastrophes around the world. And I disagree. I think that this is 100% the narrative playing itself out. And I know you and I have been really wanting to talk about this because it is pretty obvious, at least for us, because we changed our news and we were able to change our views. And a lot of people out there are still watching the mainstream narrative. And once you unplug from it and you start to get your news from different sources, from reputable people who do deep dives of investigative journalism, you start to kind of waken up to that there may be a bigger picture at play. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your perspective on the narrative around climate change as we go into this conversation.
wow, um, when I was in high school, I got caught up into the climate change, vegetarian, vegan, humans are bad, we're killing the planet, and I got real depressed, as many people probably have. And if you have empathy, empathy can be used against you as a weapon. I naturally have empathy. I think most of us do that aren't, battered and bruised throughout life. And then when you have people that are toting a narrative and they use that empathy against you to just radically change your behavior and give up hope, and it's such a depressing conversation. But then I listened to Randall Carlson, and he reminds us that, man, like what the earth went through with humans on it at several
Mm.
stages throughout history was biblical. There's a reason why all this stuff is in the Bible, is because it happened, and humans culturally, civilizationally, were ultimately changed by it. Climate change, it's a big one. I think what I ended up getting to is I felt so helpless. I felt like there's nothing that could be done, and I didn't want to go the route of destroying civilization to prevent the coming holocaust against humanity and every species on the planet. And I detached from it, and I went, well, what can I do? What can I do to ensure that I'm in the most control of the basic aspects of my life? My water source, my food source, my community, tools and crafts and trades and how to fix things. Once I went in that direction, I had so much ease inside me. And that's my one recommendation is we can get caught on all this stuff, and there's going to be something that's going to happen. There's going to be a flood, there's going to be a wind, there's going to be a fire, there's going to be something. And what have you done to get your house in order to keep the impact from being so severe to you and your family? Like, we're not 100% sustainable. I don't think we ever will be, unless we live like we build a stone house, and like we have to be connected to society, and it's a amazing time to be connected to society. And I don't want to completely disconnect from it. I want to feel a part of it, and I want to contribute to it. So I'm curious what happens next. Climate change is a big topic for us because it's a buzzword, but at the same time, we see what happened to Maui, and whatever you want to speculate about that.
I think the title's completely wrong. I don't actually believe in climate change. I believe in climate manipulation. And it is proven that there are weapons of mass destruction that change the air, the water, the wind, the earth, the magnitude, the frequency. There are these technologies that are meant to destroy human life. And that is their purpose. Their purpose is to completely wipe out the old so that the new can arise. And I don't really know if you are targeted, if that's avoidable. So for me at this point, especially after going to the mainland and surrounding ourselves with the people that we surround ourselves with, I think it comes down to just getting right with God. Like, our little purpose here on earth is this short little blip. Everything that's happened in the past, you cannot change. You have to just compost it and attempt to grow into the best version of yourself that you can be for whatever is going to come next for you. And we all have these different paths, and many of them intersect. And I've really witnessed that the people that I see making the greatest change are doing the inner work first. They're making the greatest change inside themselves first. They're getting right within themselves, within their house first, so that they can then go out into the community and actually bring, be the torch bearers, right? Like taking the light into the community and educating people about the things that are happening on a local, statewide, nationwide, global scale. And I truly believe that if you aren't well within, it's going to be very difficult for you to go out and fight a battle without, right? And so this show is really about these making these decisions of realizing that every single penny that you work for or earn, you're going to eventually put back into the system somewhere. So who are you supporting?
Yep.
And what is that ripple effect of consumerism? And what do you really want to see change? So for me, as soon as I understood what genetic modification was, and as soon as I started to understand what synthetic preservation and synthetic vitamins and minerals and all these creations to mimic what Earth gave us were, and I lifted the veil and I could see the ingredients clearly, I began to make conscious changes. I started buying organic coffee instead of non-organic coffee. Why? Because non-organic coffee is sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and uses chemical fertilizers and is a very dirty industry, versus organic coffee that I'm hiring some awesome farmer who's working on an organic farm outside, not being inundated with all of the poisons, harvesting coffee berries and running through it. We have coffee plants, so I know how intensive this process is. I would rather fund that farm than go and just get a Maxwell house. And it's when you start to split the realization of, okay, I could go this way and support major corporations that do not care about humanity in any way, shape, or form. Their only goal is to make as much money off of you while your short little life is here as possible. Or I could go this route and I can find the local rancher who, makes cute little Instagram videos of her and her cows. And I can go to her little store on Thursdays through Saturdays at, between 1 and 4. And I can load up my cooler with consciously raised loved beef, which we consume in our household. We find a lot of benefits from consuming beef in our household. And I can give her my money instead. And then she's going to do what with that? She's going to ripple that out into generations of farming because she's a third generation rancher. Where you put your money matters. This is how we sway, this is how we tip the needle. So unfortunately, the unconscious consumer who's consuming Nabisco and Mars and Pepsi and Dasani and all of these large corporations, that is all going up to how many entities? One or two major corporations that own everything in the world. I don't want to fund that. And I think that's why we started this show, was to attempt to bring some education to light and help guide people in a new direction. Because if you're not asking these questions and you're just eating Twinkies because they taste good, I don't care, it tastes good, then the dis-ease that's going to come down the road from that on all levels, economically included, then I don't think you really have a right to complain.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that?
a few things. I should be taking notes. These are good. I saw a lot of people drinking soda, and I can't remember the
Yeah.
last time I had, a standard soda in decades, like a Coke or a Pepsi or a Sprite or anything like that. High fructose corn syrup, tons of, tons of sugar, who knows what. And I thought about it. I was like, why is this such an instant go-to for so many people? And sugar is it's an immediate response source of fuel in a weird kind of corrupt way when you think about it. Protein is much cleaner. It's a long-lasting. It's not as rewarding as a sugar bomb. So I was just thinking of the mentality of people who go for a sugary drink, and I've been guilty of that. I love cookies and sweets and whatnot. But question yourself. Question what you're habitually doing. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I going for this? What is my body craving? And when you kick the sugar monster, you realize that you've been in such this fast burn for so long, and then if you can pull off that, you go into a slower burn. But another thing too is, man, when you drive and you see the trains with like hundreds of Costco and Walmart containers and Amazon, I sometimes forget, because we have a little island. We only have one Walmart and one Costco, and we greatly benefit
One
from it.
airport,
One
no
airport,
trains.
two-lane road. The illusion of abundance. And I think that most people out there, including myself at sometimes, just expect. We're on the road no more than, 10, 20 minutes from a plethora of supposed options for food. You have your gas stations, you have your big stores, you have restaurants, you have all this stuff. It's just places where people shouldn't exist. There's just an oasis of accessibility to nutrition, and
Choices.
choices.
All the choices in the world. What do you want? You want a Subway? You want a Chinese food? You want sushi? You
But
want
yeah,
Italian? You want ramen? You want pho? What do you want? It's all right there. I mean, we were tripping out. We pulled in to get some gas, and we were in this random little town, and there was literally like 30 or 40 different restaurant options.
yeah. And you have to realize that to have that much, quote, abundance, you have to sacrifice quality. And that quality is jeopardized with being able to produce as much food as fast as possible, as consistently and predictable as possible, because there's tons of money that's related to all the food and the grain, the beef. It's like stocks, and people are putting money on this, and if it's not predictable, it's not profitable. So if you make it predictable by altering the soil, altering the growing cycles, pumping it full of this to make it bigger and grow faster and fend off the bugs, oh my God, you're left with this this abomination of food, and you're going to suffer all the consequences because you wanted convenience. And
Yep.
think of the people,
Fast and cheap.
think of
Fast
the
and cheap, right?
think of the generations that came before us. They didn't have this abundance, but they lived, I assume they lived within their means. You know, they ate the foods that were available to them based off the season, based off the location, uh, you know, and it was it. Like there was like five main staple foods for each culture in this country, and then they slowly started to merge, and more opportunities and more, and we're going to see the downward of that. We're going to see. I hope not. I hope that organic, you know, or people see the benefit of organic. We have a store down the road. It used to be junk. It used to just be booze and cigarettes and Doritos. Like that was the abundance. And they had beef. You know, they had local beef, which was nice. But it got bought out, and it's this wonderful plethora of organic local options, and it's so cool. It's so cool. And I encourage everyone listening, if you have one of these stores, if you have something in your area that it's like it's a little more expensive, but it's like local cheese and it's local butter and it's local crafts, go and support them, because if you don't, they're not going to be around, because Walmart and Amazon are always going to triumph with people that are just like unconscious consumers. So take it away.
Important. I mean, you know, knowing the owners of the stores that we shop at makes me feel better about my $100 to $200 bill every time I get a box this big of organic food from my local health food store. I would rather spend extra to support people that I know and love that live here, and these are their stores, than to save $2 or $3 and give my money to Jeff Bezos. Like, I just can't look at the ripple of where he's putting his money and funding the World Economic Forum and seeing how that agenda is going. I can't justify it, even if it'll save me money for my budget. And I think this is where most people go into lack and scarcity. And this is really my main point that I want to talk about today with conscious consumerism. Lack and scarcity is a disease. It is something that has an energy about it that infiltrates the human soul and makes you feel like you'll never be enough. You'll never get out of this job. You'll never move out of this town. You'll never have more than your every 2-week paycheck. And this lack and scarcity mentality is destructive to human beings. It literally, I believe, is the new age form of slavery. Because unless you can find a way to be in an abundant mindset, to see the bounty, be a part of the beauty and the growth and the things that make us so juicy as humans, you're going to just be stuck in that unconscious rat race, if you want to call it that, till you hopefully retire. Like anybody our age who thinks they're going to retire off Social Security, like, you guys got to wake up. Like, this is a joke. Like,
Yeah.
this is a joke. Like, what did you tell me, Rob? How much money do we need right now so that we can retire and live
Again.
off $100,000 a year?
Again, this is not financial advice, but I think I heard it on like an Instagram reel. This woman's talking, and she said, if you were to retire tomorrow, you would need $30 million of tomorrow's money to retire at $100,000 a year.
Which is nothing. That's just
So-
like nothing. So our food costs have gone up 72%. Our food costs, 72% increase due to inflation
yeah,
in the last year. If that keeps happening, then we need 30 million of the future money, but you're only going to be living off of $100,000 of today's money. That's not enough. And
Yeah.
this is the lack and scarcity of going, oh, well, I can live off $100,000 a year. Can you? Can you really? Are you sure?
could, our parents could, our grandparents could. That they're like, okay, cool.
Oh, you will be. Our grandparents were rich if they had 100 grand, 6 figures a year for our grandparents. That's
Yeah.
like wealthy. That's wealthy, wealthy.
But
And
what are you compromising? How many options do you have when you, I mean, if you are buying cheap food, I guarantee you're going to have health consequences down the road. Pick one.
guaranteed.
Pick something. It's inflammation, gut problems, Alzheimer's. Like,
Colon cancer.
pick one of 1,000 issues. And if you are not conscious enough to not eat healthier, are you conscious enough to shift gears and have superfoods as a daily protocol? No, you're too far gone. So wake up and start to accept that these cheap conveniences that we go for are really messing everything up. It's messing up the businesses that are trying to provide quality ingredients. Food aid. This is something I didn't hear. I hear by some people, but I didn't really hear when I was younger. Like Africa. What were some of the big like NGOs that were doing food aid out there? You know the consequence of that? Short little rant. You
He's
go,
rant. I'm rave.
you food aid. You give people free food. Well, not really. You get a loan from the government that you're going to provide aid to their people, and then in return you own them. You know, it's the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. They talk about that in there a little bit. So you bring them free food, and then the people who grow food and sell food in the areas that are, quote, impoverished or war torn or being taken over, how are they going to compete with free potatoes? How are they going to compete with? No, they're not. So they're gone. Their farms are gone, and they get gobbled up by companies that come in and go, "Oh, you couldn't pay your bills." So the nothing's free.
I want to touch on that. I want to
Right.
touch on this because this is really important. This is the road to socialism.
Yeah.
And it absolutely should terrify anyone that owns a business to think that this is going to go a direction to where it's going to be easier for people to do nothing, to live in a smart city, to have all of their finances run through the central bank digital currency. You will no longer be able to own anything. You won't have no gold, no silver, no real estate, no assets whatsoever. And you will be living in a track and trace AI universe.
Listen, how many people right now would be like, sign me up? Everything you just said,
Most.
there's so many people that are so desperate for a handout, and they're so out of luck, and they've just gone down such a wrong path that they're like, wait, yeah, the line in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, I don't know where it technically is.
The line is going to be for wealthy people. It's not going to be we're going to go and pull all of the homeless people off the street that don't want to do
No.
anything. I'm sorry. Like
No.
I'm talking about the 99.9% of unconscious consumers. Let's just use America. The 99.9% of unconscious consumers who are never going to get the mindset of abundance right, who would rather just live off a little and not have to do anything than to ever grow into the mindset of a millionaire.
Here's a great test for anyone listening. Look to your left, look to your right in your social groups. If you see more than a handful of people that are like that, you should be terrified that your company that you keep are the people that will probably get gobbled up into this socialism grinder. Look throughout history. There's been people that went, okay, I'm gonna pull out of this system. I need to be self-sufficient. I need to get out of here. I need to move here. I need to move my money. I need to I need to rethink what I'm reliant on for my source of
Mm-hmm.
income, my nutrition, and my education. Whoa, you see it coming. Make some moves. Do something about it that makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're in control of your life, not just
Mm.
this socialism machine is going to come and kill us all.
Save
I,
them. It's going to save us all. It's going to save us. Won't that be great? Government handouts. Yay!
well, let's
Oof.
go back to, you know, I understand how this is working so well because back in high school, the vegetarian, vegan, environmental movement, listen, all this is in there. And I was on board. I was so disconnected from my species because I felt to blame for everything that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I was in disgust of everyone that was eating meat. So funny. We just harvested a goat the other day. Look how far I've come. We
We haven't even talked about that yet. Do you want to pause and talk about that for a minute?
well, I could wrap with a thought. Yes, it would be glorious if we had a collective conscious high frequency level one civilization where we're tapping into more ubiquitous forms of energy and we have a conscious understanding, but that's not going to happen with this plan. It
No.
just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's unfortunate, and I wish we could do better as a species because I look around and I'm very disappointed that we're just we're just gobbling up everything we can while we can, and we're not thinking ahead. And maybe that's why these plans are coming in because if you look at the human species as just the useless eaters, yeah, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna stop them? You're not gonna stop them. You're not gonna convince them. You're not gonna educate them. So you cull the population and you leave the obedient and intelligent ones, and it's like a Hunger Games, you know. But
Not yet, but it's looking like it's going that way. Like I can't help okay, so just so everybody knows, Rob and I love movies. We
yeah,
make movies for a living. We love movies. We've seen every movie. We do a lot of movie references. So get used to that. Um I can't help but feel like we are a part of like the rebel alliance against the evil empire. I can't help but feel that. And it gives me hope when I look to my right and when I look to my left. I go, "Damn, I'm surrounded by some really incredible people. No excuses, getting it done, teaching other people how to do it every single day, hustling, taking care of their home, taking care of their family, taking care of the people that they love, doing the best that they can to provide solutions."
yeah,
And that's why we created this show. This show was created to show the way home to the light by offering solutions, offering water filtration solutions, offering organic nutrition solutions, offering solutions that have to do with protecting your skin, protecting your home, that have to do with protecting your finances and creating finances. We've built an empire on affiliate marketing. It's really a lot of fun. I like residual income. Do you like residual income, Rob?
I do. I love finding companies that I respect, I admire, that I benefit from, and by merely acknowledging the benefits and sharing that with people that I think would benefit them, I receive compensation for using my reputation to showcase a product or a service. It's that simple. And
Yeah. If you love something, you're going to naturally represent it by talking about it or consuming it or showing people the way.
yeah,
And that's all we did. We just found companies that we were passionate about, locked arms with them, and share as we are inspired. And what that has given us is the life that we dreamed of. When we first met, we said, wouldn't it be cool if we could own land and have a sustainable permaculture farm where we could educate people from? And here we are using technology and the internet while the Rebel Alliance can still broadcast. And we are also now partnering with a technology company that is not shadow banning. Like anyone who's been shadow banned, anyone who's had their YouTube channel taken from them, anybody who has lost their Instagram, lost their Twitter, lost their PayPal accounts even, we now have a solution for you. We have a technology company that we are literally broadcasting into right now behind a paywall
Yeah.
that is giving people the opportunity to have their voice and to be compensated by the people who are following them without any governmental influence. That is freaking amazing. And yet this all started with a dream. And I think we have forgotten how to dream. And if we can remind people how to dream, that anything is possible if you desire it enough. And I think we were just at a Lions Not Sheep event. We're ambassadors for Lions Not Sheep. We are also in the Lion's Den. And Sean said something that was really powerful. And it was around the desire for more became more powerful than the pain, right? Because when you're in the pain body, it's easy to just stay there. The woe is me. I'm never going to be enough. Why me? I don't deserve that. I'll never be the CEO. I'll never have my own job. I'll never move to Hawaii. All the stories, you guys, you tell yourselves these stories over and over and over again to the point where you believe them. And we changed the narrative. We changed the story. We started saying, what if? What if we could own our own land? And what if we could have sustainable agriculture? And what if we could work from home? And what if we could pick and choose? We don't have to work for anybody else. We choose to because it turns us on and it lights us up and we like to make magic. That, I think, is the biggest reminder here for conscious consumerism, is that if you're already consuming something and there's an affiliate opportunity with that and you love it, get yourself an affiliate code. Like, what are you doing? Like, start talking about it. Get on camera, go public, talk to your neighbors, talk to your community, and start to share. I mean, I built an empire of over 10,000 people from one Facebook post. Yeah, I had to consistently show up over and over again for 8 years, but it was that first push and I was terrified. I wasn't good on camera back then. I look at videos that we did back in the day. Remember when you would film me, but you'd have the projector screen behind me and you would like film me with the projector screen behind me? Like, we just figured it out. Like, it's so ridiculous looking back at it now to what we're doing, broadcasting into this incredible technology.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. You got to just make a decision that you want more for your life. Flip the switch, take off the old broken record, and put on a new song. And if you don't know where to start, you can always reach out to us, and we'll help you find your passion and plug you into the right place and encourage you to go and grow. That's all we can do here. And I think that this is a great conversation. I have a feeling we're going to have to do a part 2 because we are already behind schedule. But I want to kind of go back to what you were talking about around like really owning it, because we ended up harvesting our first goat. And, you know, maybe a lot of people are like, ew, goat, that's disgusting. Okay, great. You have no idea what you're talking about. We raised a young male goat that was not a buck. He was castrated when he was very young. And you just use rubber bands. It's not that big of a deal. They like kick for like a minute and then they're over it and then they fall off when they're done. And this was the first goat that I actually had to midwife because he probably would not have made it out and his mom could have died too.
He was a big boy.
So this was something that I am so intimately connected with. And yet we knew eventually he would have his one bad day. And sure enough, we went through the process. Our son was involved, watched the whole thing, helped us process everything down into 30 something pounds in our freezer. And now to feed our dogs. And to know that that was raised on goat milk and pasture and is now going to feed our family is the only reason I was able to get through the process of like, this thing is going to happen. And I think that my biggest awareness of it especially with goats, is that human beings and goats have had relationships since what, the dawn of time, since the first human met the first goats and they like became homies. Shepherding and walking the land and living that nomadic sort of relationship is something that most people will never be able to experience unless you choose to go and volunteer and work at a farm, or you choose to leave the city and do what we've done, which has been a lot of hard work. I mean, it's all day, every day, and we'll never, ever get it all done. And knowing that there is that cycle of life, that samsara, which I've talked to you about 100 million times, right? It's like from the seed to the sprout to the flower to the fruit to the seed to the soil, right? It is cyclical, and none of us are going to live forever, and none of our goats are going to live forever. None of our dogs are going to live forever. None of our animals are going to live forever. And knowing that there is a sacrifice that happens in the exchange. I know it's intense. It's super intense for you. It was intense for me too. But I think I moved through the intensity pretty quickly because the benefits outweighed the one bad day.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts?
I was just trying to accept it. Yeah, it's challenging. I don't have this like, if a dog died, you like really miss him. You feel bad. I got past that pretty quick. I liked him. He was a cool goat, and we hung out. And he did
He's
mess
a
up.
total prick. He
He was
he
a
broke
total
all of
prick.
our fences. He cost us thousands of dollars in fencing.
We
He never listened. He
the
always jumped
term
out.
the term goat hole, instead of asshole, goat hole came from his actions. Yeah, he's a big
Correct.
pain in the butt. But it was an interesting thing because I've never killed a mammal like that before. I didn't do it. We hired someone who's a professional. He's done thousands of goats, and he had an interesting perspective on it. He's like, if you're okay doing this, you're a psychopath. This is not fun. This is not a pleasant thing to do, but it needs to be done. And that kind of gave me some solace of like, there's things that you need to do that you don't want to do. And I was like, okay.
Well, especially murder. I mean, like that's what it is. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, I have an easier concept around it of like letting the herd cruise out through the forest and like sniping one of them off. Like
Yeah,
for me, there's a lot more ease to that. Like treating it like a deer versus like
I get that.
murdering your pet.
But
Like that concept is really difficult for a lot of people and has been challenging for us. This is a very vulnerable conversation. Like
yeah,
we didn't have to talk about this. But this is a very vulnerable conversation I think for you and I both, because we had to really come to terms. First of all, are we going to just do this ourselves and not know how to do it? Like that seemed ridiculous to me. I would rather pay someone who is an expert at something to teach me how
yes.
to do this right.
Well, even
And
that.
we needed to learn that. We needed to learn how to do it right. And we also, for me personally, I decided that if this is going to be something that we're going to do consistently, and if there is someone who is a professional in their field willing to do this and I can pay them for their service, I'm going to choose to go that route for me personally, just because I have so many other things that I'm handling on a bandwidth that I
Oh,
wasn't really ready to get to that point yet.
it was a lot of skilled work.
Very skilled work and quick. Wham,
Rel-
bam, thank you, ma'am. Like it was an
Relatively quick.
hour.
Yeah, and we learned a lot from that. And
Hmm.
in the future, I'd rather hire him again to come and help. We're always a part of it, but to go through the steps, because knowing where to cut and what piece to get, and is like, he was an artist in that weird farm way. And that's why we had him, because we went through many times where we're just like why do we have these goats? And there's times when things are harmonious, like we'd let them out and we'd supervise them, and the chickens would come out and the goats would come out and the dogs are running around, and it's like it's like stock footage on Getty. It's like, oh my god, look at this farm life, it's so cool. And then they get out and they eat the 4 acres they have. They decide to get out and go out through gates into our neighbor's area and eat their tea leaves. Not our hundreds of tea leaves, their tea leaves. And it's like, so why? And milk. We originally got them because we wanted a milk supply and just meat and weed eaters. That was kind of the
I
main
mean,
three.
really, let's think about this. Okay, so at this point here on our farm, we have chickens, we have chicken eggs, we have goats, we have goat milk for whatever goat milk products, we have goats for processing if and when need be. We have coconuts, we have bananas, we have kalo, we have cherries, we have pomegranates, we've got sweet potatoes, we've got every kind of spicy pepper you can
Papaya,
imagine, all of the fresh greens, papayas, cacao. Oh my God, it just
tilapia.
keeps going. Like we have tilapia in our pond, we've got prawns in our pond, we've got bass in our pond. There's probably catfish in the pond as well. So looking at the massiveness of what we have right now, and now we have water filtration. So if you guys missed episode 6, go back and check out my
Amanda.
interview with Amanda. And even that whole water filtration and molecular hydrogen, which just like it just makes me feel when I think about molecular hydrogen. I'm going to bring her back because so much has evolved since that last message. We are sustainable. Now, power, okay, solar, all right. Well, the majority of Kauai's power is run on solar anyway, so we're a part of a cooperative. So technically, we're running on solar. So really, each one of these steps took time and took research and took a decision that we made that we wanted to move in that direction. And now looking back, we've accomplished almost every single thing that we've set out to do. So kudos to you and to me. Huge congratulations to us for living the farm life, like legit living the farm life. And we want to encourage you to live the farm life. And if you can't, please use your money to support the farmers that are feeding you. Even if it's $12 a dozen for eggs instead of 10, dude, pay it.
And
Like legit.
if you want to, from 2 people that run a small farm, this is relatively small in comparison.
Hugely small.
Do you know how many people are looking for competent labor? Not just.
I am. I'm looking for competent labor. Always.
We're constantly going. We want to find passionate people that know what they're doing or are eager to learn what to do. That genuinely enjoy being here. Like that's a huge thing for me. I don't want anyone to work for me or with me that doesn't enjoy the process. It's like you got to have joy in what you do. And if it's just this like, oh, I got to do this thing. Oh, give me the money. Whatever.
You sound like Reason.
Well, so yeah, there's plenty of people that have an operation, small, big, animals, plants, whatever, and you can learn so much. That is how we thrived. We were apprentices. Everyone was studying from everyone else. We shared information. We shared knowledge. I don't think we'll ever see it, but I love the idea of like people getting together for, farmers markets on a not just a consumer standpoint, but farmer to farmer, and the goat guy to the coconut guy, and like there's so much wisdom here, and it's beautiful that we have this technology to bring people together. So that's my hope too, is to find more people and then bring them on and give them a voice to share what they're doing and share what they've learned, because all this is hopefully giving people some perspective or viewpoint to enhance their quality of life.
Once again, if you want something bad enough and you're willing to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, there are going to be other people that can help you accomplish your goals. For me, I wanted to move to Hawaii and study La'au Lapa'au. That was my goal. I wanted to do that. I wanted to live in Hawaii and I wanted to study plant medicine. I made that happen. How did I make that happen? I found a farm that needed help taking care of the vacation rentals that paid for the farm and taking care of the property, the tropical agriculture on the property. And I was 18 at the time. So when you think about the skill set that I had is that I was already working in greenhouses. I already had a salad mix business. I was already inundated in it enough to where I was malleable and ready to learn. And the moment I put that out into the universe, it came up, a property that was looking for property managers. And that's something that I think that if you are watching this episode or somehow you connect with me or with Rob through Instagram and you see this little reel that we're cutting, you can reach out to us. Like if you're called, we would like to hear why. And if you are the right people with the right skills and the right mindset and the right dedication who are willing to treat our farm like it was your own, we could potentially have a relationship that could turn into your next home. And that is something that I think most people forget about. Like, you think I want to move to Hawaii. Okay, well, I got to get a job. Okay, well, where are you going to get a job? By the way, there's like no jobs here unless you want to work for $8 an hour. You move to Hawaii. Okay, well, I need to buy a house. Well, there's no houses in Hawaii for less than $1.2 million if you want a
Yeah.
shit shack. Okay, so you have no job, you can't afford the house, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, what am I doing? How do I live in Hawaii? So the fastest way I've seen to live in Hawaii is to find people like us that are looking for ranch hands, that are looking for farm hands, that need help. And you just want to like be in paradise barefoot with your shirt off out in the sun, weeding the garden 5 hours a week or whatever it happens to be. It's like, it's so minor, the amount of work that you do for the return, right? And so I think conscious consumerism, coming back to wrap it all up, I know we're going to have a part 2 because there was a lot of stuff we didn't cover that I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
Conscious consumerism, I think, to wrap this episode up, is to really encourage everyone that watches this episode, find something, someone, some business, some farm, something that really turns you on, that you're super passionate about, and find out how you can help spread the word and receive a kickback, because that's pretty cool. We live on kickbacks from companies that we represent, and that is a great feeling. And I'm so excited about where we're going with this technology company that we're partnering with. We also have a company that we're partnering with that deals in gold and silver and precious metals. So if you have an IRA or you have a retirement account and you need that to be gold backed, this is going to blow your mind. I'm going to bring this gentleman on our next show. We're going to talk about elements of the earth, in specific gold and silver, and how to secure your wealth. So I can't wait to have that conversation next. So any closing thoughts, my dear, my love, Robert Brown, what do you got to say?
Oh, I had, I had some random ones, but one is also we have this. We're very fortunate to live on Kauai, and we're fortunate enough to live in the shadow of the wettest spot on Earth. So, and the way we're able to grow things, literally, we harvest tea leaves and we stick a hole in the ground and we plant a new one. That's it. And they grow. It's incredible. And most people struggle to get things growing. I wouldn't discourage aquaponics or hydroponics or any of these other methods. If you could, I think most places in the world are going to be stressed with environmental change, whether it's man-made or it's pollution.
Climate manipulation.
Yeah, it's just a reality. We could point fingers and be upset, but at the same time, what can you do about it? And right. I've seen some really cool hydroponic systems, and they made their own compost, and they made compost tea and worm tea, and they mixed that into the system, and they had the tilapia, sure. And it was in a nice greenhouse system it was freezing where they lived, but they had a biomass water pump that was, it was a big pile of wood chips, just wood chips. Mm-hmm. And you had a coil of rubber hose, and that biodegrading wood heated up the water that was going through the hose, and it went under the greenhouse and came back and heated and went under the greenhouse. And somewhere in Montana, this below ground, like, you talked about this, a few feet below ground where it's kind of nice and cool and moist and contained. There's always options. It's not Hawaii. It could be Montana. It could be wherever.
Well, it's expensive to recreate Hawaii and Montana, but it can be done. It can be done. Like you can create tropical paradise
Yeah.
in a type of ecosystem that is, slightly partially underground with sun and reflection and recirculation of water and food, and you can grow bananas. Like it's possible.
Here's my good closing. Put it all together.
All right, do it,
We were
I'm waiting.
talking about dreaming. The world seems to be surrounded with nightmares right now. And it's kind of vulnerable to dream. It feels like if you're not careful, because you don't know if your dream's going to get smashed by the economy, by whatever. I encourage people to dream again, get into that creative space where you can detach from the stress of the world and the problems and go, what can I do? What do I have power to control? What do I want to see? What do I want to create? And from there, take steps into detaching yourself from a system that is ultimately controlled. And you don't want to be controlled. Deep down, we don't want to be controlled. And we always will be, but the less and less and the more empowerment we can have to take care of food and water and our community, it's such a liberating feeling when it starts to flow. There's going to be hiccups, there's going to be stresses, but persevere through and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And your dreams are going to get smashed and you're going to get kicked in the face and you're going to end up in the dirt. And that happens. It happens over and over again. How many times have we failed along the way here? Several times we've failed and had to start over and had to burn it to the ground so that we had fresh compost to grow from. And that's where we'll tie it all back into get right with yourself, get right with God, whatever that looks like for you. Take care of this incredible, holy temple, which is our body. You get one. Take care of that first so that you can become the best version of yourself so that you can actually go out into the world and make the change that you wish to see in the world. Because if you are sick and you are broke, you are going to have a really hard time to stand up, stand tall, put your flag in the ground and carry that torch to help other people to rise as well. So that's what we're here for. We are lighthouses in dark times, and we are going to continue to do this amazing podcast. So if you want to be a member, you want to show up, you want to be a part of what we're doing, hit us up. We can't wait to meet you. And thanks so much, Robert, for being my very special guest today.
Love it. Great show. All right. Bye, everybody. Boom.
Aloha and welcome to Farm Life Nation, a place for conversations about the problems we face and the solutions that exist today. There are over 60,000 known chemicals in tap water, and the EPA only regulates 91 of them. If you are concerned about having pure, clean water, then look no further. We have all the solutions. From whole home filtration to under-the-counter pre-filters, we have all your water needs covered. We are here to help you and your family ensure the fundamental human need for hydration. Go to onewatersolution.co or click the link below. Financing is available.